Since September 2nd, the United States military has been attacking boats in the Caribbean Sea and Eastern Pacific, and we are now up to 14 boats stricken, attacked, struck, 61 people killed, and 3 surviving. That has caused a lot of consternation between the administration and others who wonder if we are taking it a little bit too far. Of course, there's a war on drugs, and the administration is saying we're not doing enough about it. We're going to take matters into our own hands. But on the other hand, we don't always know who was on those boats.
I think there are a lot of let me just say, maybe not a lot. There are a growing number of Republicans who are saying this is not okay. Rand Paul is kind of leading that effort, but he's not the only one anymore saying, hey, look, there is due process, and we believe in due process for everyone. You can't just drop a bomb on a boat that you say is carrying drug smugglers without any kind of trial or indication. Like the Coast Guard is able to board those boats and take people into custody, but he's calling them extrajudicial killings. Like he's just saying, like, we're just going around the system and dropping bombs, basically dropping drones with weapons on boats that we have at least the people who should know, they're saying they don't know.
Yeah, and historically, like you said, the Coast Guard has had the mission of doing this, and they will intercede when they see a boat. They will make contact, look into the boat, see what's there, and go through the normal process that you'd expect with a like a traffic stop or something like that out on the high seas.
You know what's interesting is we're seeing, like, again, I'll go back to Senator Rand Paul. He's saying some of the claims that are being made is that they're smuggling fentanyl, and he said fentanyl doesn't come from the Caribbean.
Right.
It comes from China and Mexico, but it doesn't come from the Caribbean. That's a different type of drug, right? Anyway, it's they've also sent an aircraft carrier into the area that some people are calling a significant escalation also, in addition to that.
Yeah, and of course, I think the administration is claiming that these drugs that are coming in are mostly cocaine, drugs of that nature. We have a cocaine problem, let's face it, but it's not a drug that we see as insidious right now.
It's not as common anymore.
Fentanyl is just off the charts, and it's something that we need to deal with, and I think we're doing a fairly good job of that. But you're right; it's not coming in on these boats through the Caribbean.
So Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth posted yesterday on X that there had been another airstrike, and ABC Pentagon reporter Luis Martinez has more on yesterday's strike.
Wednesday's airstrike on an alleged drug smuggling boat in the Eastern Pacific killed 4 people, according to Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. The airstrike brings to 14 the total number of airstrikes against drug cartel boats since they began in early September. Airstrikes that have killed at least 61 people. The news came the same day that the Trump administration briefed a group of Republican senators on the airstrike campaign, leading to criticism from a top Democratic senator that Democrats had been excluded. Luis Martinez, ABC News, Washington.
And the administration loves to show these videos, and of course you can't take your eyes off of a boat that's sort of traveling at a fairly decent rate of speed, and it just gets obliterated. I mean, the amount of force that's going into this is just off the charts. The precision, it shows that our military certainly has capabilities to do some pretty extraordinary things, but finding out exactly what's on a boat before you blow it up isn't one of those yet.
So one of the things that some Republicans are requesting, and I'm sure some Democrats as well, but is if this is an act of war, right? If it literally is a war on drugs and we're taking out drug runners, this is an act of war, that it should go through Congress, right? That's what they're saying, is take it to Congress. They're the ones who have the ability to declare war, and it's just I think that right now what we're seeing is that's not going to happen. But one of the things that I'm looking at right now, this is a Washington Post editorial, so from their editorial board, and they say right off the bat, drug abuse takes a tremendous toll on American society. Curtailing smuggling is an admirable objective of Trump's border policy, but not every social scourge is an act of war that allows the executive to deploy military force. So anyway, they just say Trump hasn't gone to Congress to seek approval for these attacks, probably because the majority would not approve of the intentional killing of non-combatants.
What I'm surprised at, though, Holly, is if there are 61 killed and 3 survivors, why we don't know more about those individuals. Certainly their families, their
We do.
governments, and I mean, but there's got to be some. You would expect that there would have been something proposed that said, hey, and I know we're hearing, well, they were fishermen, they were doing this and that, but I would like to see some proof of that. Like, hey, this guy was out, these people were out doing this, and this is their boat, and this is what it looked like when it left. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think we do see that. I think one of the issues with the escalation and rhetoric against the president of Colombia is him saying back to the Trump administration, you are killing fishermen who are just going out for their daily catch. And they have shown pictures of the boat beforehand, and then the widow, right, for example, saying that was my husband. He went out to fish and he never came home.
Yeah, and the international waters is just weird, and I don't understand maritime law at all, and I don't want to because it's complicated. But
you're an attorney.
Yeah, I know. It's like I don't want to do bankruptcy law either. But there are things that are over my head, and this is something you wonder by what authority we have, if any, maybe we don't need it, to do something like that, and why other nations aren't going, what's going on? Maybe they are, and saying, hey, you're killing our citizens. But I think if somebody attacked a yacht from the United States, we'd be going crazy.
Ballistic.
Right.
For sure. And, again, it's part of an ongoing question about what authority does the executive branch have to take action without congressional authority and authorization, right? If you're just saying, if you ask Hegseth, he says he has the authority to do this because they're taking out bad guys, right? But you have a lot of other people who are, including, like I said, some Republicans who are saying, actually, there is a process here and you're not following that process.
Sadly, process is the right word, because due process in this country, and I'm an attorney and I'm a defense attorney, and I've spent my whole career as a prosecutor or defense attorney, but the concept of due process is so sacred to me and others that you wonder. And I understand, like everything in this country, that sometimes we take things too far, and sometimes we give people more deference, or things that maybe we need to back off on a little bit. And I understand what's happening at the borders, and I understand the drug problem because I've lived it I helped Utah form its drug court 30 years ago, and something has to be done, and the war on drugs was a failure. But man, the due process part of me just thinks you can't just take out a boat because you think, or you're pretty sure it. We're 80% sure it had drugs on it. That's frightening.
Well, it's 61 people now that are dead, and maybe they were bad guys, and maybe they were smuggling drugs, trying to get them to the United States, although there's even question about that, if the boats even had the ability to do that. However, as you pointed out, there is a process, and the Coast Guard is the one that has been authorized to basically do maritime policing, right? The U.S. Coast Guard. So anyway, it's an ongoing issue, and the strikes continue to happen, and they don't. Of course, there's no notice ahead of time. It's after the fact when they post another video on social media, and it's basically like, got another one.
What's weird right now is you have a cry for people to, hey, do something about this, and then the boat strikes continue. We bring Putin in to say, hey, knock it off with Ukraine, and then it goes worse. And Netanyahu, bring him in, and we have a peace agreement. Then it almost seems to get worse. It just seems like every time you bring attention to one of these things, and these are completely unrelated, but I'm just thinking, we think we have an avenue, we think we have a way, we think we're looking toward a resolution, and then boom, it continues. These boat strikes do not seem to be slowing down at all.
Well, this is Mr. Hegseth posted this about a week ago. He said, if you're a narco terrorist smuggling drugs in our hemisphere, we will treat you like we treat Al-Qaeda. So, and then now we have the aircraft carrier with a lot of firepower and attack planes to the waters off of Latin America.
And that plays well to a lot of the American public, let's face it.
Does it? I think there are people who do I think there are a lot of people who have concerns about this. So anyway, that's the latest on that. There was another strike yesterday that killed 14 people.